afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Chatter. I hope you enjoyed your 2-week vacation from my show. I figured I'd give you a little bit of a rest. Actually, it wasn't really planned, but 1 week I was busy preparing for an event, which I will talk about later in the show. And then last week I got hit with the plague known as the cold. And it's still somewhat here, so if I stop talking or if my voice loses during the show, I hope you'll forgive me. But I wanted to come back to the show and do something with Dancing with the Stars before the season actually ended. After last week's very shocking elimination of Willow and Mark, anything goes. Couples were battling it out for a spot in the semifinals next Monday. Here is how America's Choice and Trio Night went last night. For those of you that don't know the show, or you might not even care about it, but if you watch my show, I will explain to you what that means. America's Choice means that social media takes over, mainly Twitter, but Facebook as well. And we, as the voters, because each week on Dancing with the Stars, you vote for your favorite dancer, and then if they don't get enough votes, they get eliminated, get to pick everything, from the song to the dance to assisting with the theme and format and wardrobe. Trio dance is just as it sounds. There is an added dancer, usually a member of the Dancing with the Stars troupe or an eliminated professional that has been eliminated earlier in the season. To kick off the night, Noah and Sharna kicked off the evening with a tango. Many people wanted to see a military-style dance, since the song had a military theme to it. But there's a rule that you can't wear your military uniform unless it's a regulated event, regulated by the military. So they couldn't really do that. And I'm actually happy they went against that, because as you listen to the song, it would be more of an insult to soldiers than anything else. It was a good dance, but it wasn't his best. They earned a 31. For their trio round, they added Emma to enhance their salsa. Emma was with Redfoo and was eliminated first. It was an interesting concept for the trio dance, but I would have liked to see more from Noah. I feel like he holds back and is hiding behind his limitations. I say there is no such thing as limitations. They are just mountains you haven't climbed yet. They earned a 32 on their trio, giving them a total of 63 for the evening. Chris and Whitney were up next with a contemporary. It was a good dance and very lyrical. They earned a 34. For their trio, they added Lindsay for their Paso Doble, who was not on the show this year, but is a dance troupe member. Chris did lose his train of thought a few times, but it was a decent Paso Doble. They earned a 30, giving them a grand total of 64 for the night. Riker and Allison had an impressive night, starting off with the Viennese waltz, which was a good dance. I felt like his arms were a little off in a few places but the judges overlooked it and earned them a nearly perfect 39. They earned a 39 for their jazz routine as well, adding Brittany, a troupe member, for a total of 68. Robert and Kim proved to be the underdogs in this year's competition. Their first dance was a contemporary, and I thought it was a great dance for Robert. He came out of his comfort zone a lot tonight and opened us up to a more vulnerable side. They earned a 33. For their trio, they added Jenna, a troupe member, and had the samba. His first dance was a hit for the judges, while his second wasn't so good. His footing was off in a few places, but he still had fun. They earned a 29 for that dance, earning them a total of 62. Nastia and Derek and Sasha, the forever trio for the rest of the season, most likely, danced a Paso Doble for their first dance. I was not impressed, as I felt it lacked severely in Paso Doble content, and I was not into the whole gladiator thing either. They earned a 36. Their actual trio dance was a jive, which I felt the transitions between Sasha and Derek were very choppy and awkward. However, the judges gave them a perfect score, making their total for the night 76. They literally saved the best for last this week, however, with Rumor and Val having a historic week. They danced a rumba in the first round, and Val decided to show off what Rumor does best, which is dance, by sticking to the basics. America agreed, and a perfect score ensued. But they didn't stop there. The trio Paso Doble, adding Artem, who was with Patty, also produced a perfect score. So, Rumor and Val were perfect all around with an 80. So who goes home? You will have to wait until next week to find out, as they went back to a 2-night format, so the double elimination happens tonight. My prediction, Chris and Noah. So I've been keeping track of how many weeks we've been off the air, 3. And so I will honor all 3 states that I missed, Missouri and Montana being the past 2 weeks, and then this week's is Nevada for our cold case spotlight. First off, Missouri. Arthur Hickman, whose nickname was Daryl, age 30, was found shot to death on December 20th, 1981 at 118 and a half West Southern Avenue. At about 7:30 p.m., 2 emergency phone calls were received about a shooting at that location. At about 7:41 p.m., officers kicked down the door at that residence and found the victim lying in the stairwell with a gunshot wound to the head. 2 black males were seen running from the area at approximately 7:20. This case could be solved with some assistance from the community. For Montana, we have Ruth Lori Ballou. This 21-year-old Billings woman was found shot to death in Jellison, on Jellison Road near the Billings landfill. The autopsy revealed the victim died of multiple gunshot wounds. Reports indicate Ballou was a local prostitute who normally worked around the old Empire Bar. While several suspects were questioned in this homicide, no arrests were made. And finally, in Nevada, this case is way back in 1954. Clark County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to the discovery of a body buried in the desert at the above location. The victim was later identified as James Hartley. Hartley was a business agent for the Sheet Metal Workers Union, Local 88. An autopsy was performed and determined that the victim died from a gunshot to the head. His car was found in Los Angeles, across from the Sheet Metal Workers Union Hall, with several bullet holes in the windshield. Several leads were pursued related to union activity, but no one was ever charged. Anyone with information is urged to call the LVMPD Homicide Section at 702-828-3521. Now for some reviews. There's a lot to get to this week, so we'll start off with movies. The movie that I watched this week was Honors Student. It came out in 2014. One of the good things about having advanced cable is the ability to watch different channels, like Lifetime Movie Network. Honors Student caught my eye. It was about an English teacher who taught in prison and was getting his students to feel good about writing. A rather shy student came up to him at the end of the class and shared her idea for a book. He said it was a good basic start and to keep going with it. A few years later, he writes a book of his own that has a very similar feel as the example the student gave. The student finds the book at the library and reads it, astonished that he stole her book, and hunts him down, threatening to kill him unless he signs over the rights of the book to her. Ironically, she was in jail for murder when he had her as a student. In the end, police catch one whiff of what's going on and nobody is killed. It was an interesting movie that held my interest, which is rare, considering it was on so late, midnight to 2 a.m. Now for some restaurants and a hotel and a special event that happened to me a few weeks ago. Those of you who know me know what that was, but for those of you who don't, I will share it. First off, Giovanni's Pizza in Nashua. Not Giovanni's, but just plain Giovanni's. For those of you who know me, you know one of my current projects is writing a book on the history of cemeteries in New Hampshire's Merrimack Valley. While visiting the 11 cemeteries in Nashua, yes, I said 11, with my neighbor Megan, we stopped for lunch at Giovanni's near the airport. Not to be confused with Giovanni's, which is also popular around Nashua and Manchester, this restaurant serves typical pizza place fare, pizza, subs, Italian dinners. The inside of the restaurant is very clean and quiet, which is hard to find with pizza joints. There is no TV, and it's in a quiet place, minus the airport. The food is excellent. Highly recommend it if you live in Nashua Airport area or are traveling. Next up, Iron Horse Music Hall in Northampton, Mass. Those of you that know me well enough to know that last week, or 2 weeks ago now, I was counting down to a very big day, Friday the 24th of April, when I finally got to meet my role model in the music world, who dug me out of a dark time in life through her music. I'll review the actual concert and event of meeting her in a moment, but first wanted to cover the 2 restaurants I ate at, as well as the hotel before covering the good stuff. The concert itself was at Iron Horse in Northampton. Once we finally got there, after getting lost about a zillion times thanks to stupid college towns, we waited in line and got a seat on the first floor, about 6 or 7 tables away from the stage. Since the show was so late, we wanted to eat light and got a large nacho platter with chicken. It was really delicious, warm melted cheese that's not in a big clump, but literally all over the nachos. It's a pub-style joint, very loud and saloonish, but the prices are fairly decent and it's generally friendly. On our way home, we stopped at the 24-hour diner in, I believe it was Hatfield, Mass. And their food was also good and fairly priced. My only complaint was the coffee. It was hot, but it wasn't. And I know that doesn't make any sense, but it tasted like it wasn't hot. But it was. It's weird. It's hard to explain. Anyway, for our hotel, we stayed at the Best Value Inn in Holyoke, another freaking zoo to find your way through. But the hotel was quiet, simplistic, and homey. I, however, did not like the heater kicking off every 5 minutes, as it was loud and kept me up. But on a good note, it was nice and toasty. Now, for what you've been waiting for, my concert review. I was in pinch me this is not happening mode all evening, talking excitedly with those in tables surrounding me, making people laugh. When I'm nervous or anxious, I can be rather comical. And sometimes I channel spirit, but thankfully nobody was talking that night. But as soon as it started, I was in complete and total awe that I was in the same room as her. She opened with a real old song, Going Gone, and then took us through a musical story of old and new songs. Some of her highlights, of course, were the 3 songs she has us sing along to, 18 Wheels, Come From the Heart, and Five and Dime, which she did in a neat little chorus type setting that was Come From the Heart. And then she made us sing Five and Dime, and she closed with 455 Rocket. She also did her old hits, A Few Good Things Remain, which is very rarely played in concerts anymore, so that was exciting, and her hit maker, Where Have You Been? She also did some new stuff, like Chocolate on My Tongue. That was a cool song. Everything is Holy Now, and a song her husband wrote called Tell Me What You Ache For. She also did She Moved Through the Fair, which is a Celtic Irish song from Ireland and Scotland, which was really pretty. And we got an extra treat. We had, for those of you that have Kathy Mattea's music, on her recent album Calling Me Home, there's, well, the title song, Calling Me Home, there's a male that does amazing harmonies. I can't remember his name. I think it might be Eric. But he was there. He was in town. So we got him to do the harmony live with Kathy. It was really cool. But anyway, after the show, she did her usual free meet and greet, which not many people stayed for due to the cramped space. I, however, had a huge bag full of gifts for her, so I stayed in line and got to get my picture taken with her. After our picture was taken, she went through her stuff, loving the fact that I made her fudge to go with her copy of my latest crime novel. The way I look at it, I put you through so many emotions in that book that you need some chocolate to go with it. We talked about some personal subjects, including my recent breakup with my ex, and she gave me some life-changing, go-figure advice. But the priceless moment came when the manager tapped her on the shoulder and asked us to get moving due to another show coming in, and she turned to the manager and said matter-of-factly, "This woman has waited 10 years to meet me, therefore we will move when we're finished." I was like, did that just happen? She proceeded to just go right back to talking where we left off. Overall, I'm ecstatic that I got to meet and talk with her, and it is an event I will never forget. I have the picture of the two of us on Facebook, Twitter, other social media outlets, my laptop, and my cell phone. I will never forget the advice she left me with and have already started to implement some of the things she said into my daily routine. I hope to see her again soon, only hopefully a little closer to home this time. And now we'll talk some reflections. Reading for today, Acts 14 verses 19 to 28. However, some Jews from Antioch and Iconium arrived and won over the crowds. They stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, supposing that he was dead. But when the disciples gathered around him, he got up and entered the city. On the following day, he left with Barnabas for Derbe. After they had proclaimed the good news to that city and made a considerable number of disciples, they returned to Lystra and to Iconium and to Antioch. They strengthened the spirits of the disciples and exhorted them to persevere in the faith, saying, "It is necessary for us to undergo many hardships to enter the kingdom of God." They appointed presbyters for them in each church, and with prayer and fasting commended them to the Lord in whom they had put their faith. Then they traveled through Pisidia and reached Pamphylia. After proclaiming the word at Perga, they went down to Attalia. From there they sailed to Antioch, where they had been commended to the grace of God for the work they had now accomplished. And when they arrived, they called the church together and reported what God had done with them and how he had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles. Then they spent no little time with the disciples. Our psalm today is Psalm 145, verses 10 through 13 and 21. All your works give you thanks, O Lord, and your faithful bless you. They speak of the glory of your reign and tell of your great works, making known to all your power, the glorious splendor of your rule. Your reign is a reign for all ages, your dominion for all generations. The Lord is trustworthy in every word, and faithful in every work. My mouth will speak your praises, Lord. All flesh will bless your holy name forever. And our gospel today is one of my favorites, John 14, verses 27 to 31. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give it to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled or afraid. You heard me tell you I am going away, and I will come back to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice that I am going to the Father. For the Father is greater than I. And now I have told you this before it happens, so that when it happens, you may believe. I will no longer speak much with you, for the ruler of the world is coming. He has no power over me, but the world must know that I love the Father, and that I do just as the Father has commanded me. Get up, let us go. There is no reflection written by me tonight because we have 3 saints to talk about, and anything 3 or above, I don't do a reflection because it just makes the show extra long, and it's already pretty long this week as it is. Our first saint is Saint Angelus of Jerusalem. Angelus was a martyr. The life and work of Saint Angelus of Jerusalem are better known in the country where he died than in his homeland. He was born in 1185 in Palestine and grew up there, raised by his parents to be a zealous Christian. Since childhood, he had heard about the Crusades and the significance of the Holy Land for Western Christianity. It may have influenced his wish to join an order. He entered the Order of the Blessed Virgin Mary located on Mount Carmel. He settled down in a hermit community and spent time in prayer and theological discussions. After hearing the stories told by new friars arriving at the Carmel, he began considering a trip to Europe, and did so after a few years. Angelus, however, didn't go to Europe to visit new countries. He went because he realized that Western Christianity had departed from the ideals of the first apostles. From listening to the stories of newly arrived friars, he believed that the Holy Land was being treated just as a symbol, without any reflection on its significance for the religion. In 1220, he set out to the west to spread information about the Holy Land. He reached Sicily, where he gained considerable popularity through his sermons and stories, about the Holy Land. Angelus was murdered on May 5th in Leocata in Sicily. He was buried in the town, and memory of him has persisted in Sicily to the present day. The cult of Angelus of Jerusalem was confirmed in 1584. Not to be confused with Angelus, we have Maximus of Jerusalem. They are not related, they're just all from Jerusalem. Maximus was the bishop of Jerusalem. Born sometime in the 3rd century, Maximus lived during the time of Roman Emperor Diocletian's persecution of Christians. In 303, despite the danger, Maximus publicly declared his faith in Christ. It is believed that as punishment, he suffered crippling tortures, including the loss of an eye and the severing of arm and leg muscles. He was then sent to work in the mines. After Emperor Constantine came to power, however, Christians won the right to worship, and Maximus was freed. Maximus went on to play an important role in disputes over church doctrine. In 335, he attended the Council of Tyre and supported traditional church beliefs, arguing against the new philosophy of Arianism, which denied Christ's divine nature. Known for his honesty, Maximus was named the Bishop of Jerusalem in 336. He made a key appointment when he placed Cyril of Jerusalem in charge of the diocese catechism instruction. Cyril would become an important voice for Orthodox beliefs in the decades to come. For the next few years, Maximus wavered on various doctrinal issues, but eventually he came to strongly agree with Athanasius, who dedicated his life to fighting Arianism. At the Council of Sardica in 343, Maximus opposed his own superior in a show of support for Athanasius and his ideals. Afterward, Maximus called other bishops to Jerusalem to greet Athanasius as he made his way back to Egypt. Maximus died peacefully in 350, after a life of attempting to preserve traditional church teachings. And lastly, we have Blessed Judith of Prussia. Judith is the patron saint of Prussia. She was born at around 1220, in the town of Sangerhausen, about 30 miles west of Halle in Germany. She came from a noble Thuringian family and at a young age married a local nobleman. But her husband went to the Holy Land, either as a crusader or a pilgrim, and never returned. So Judith was a widow at the age of 20. She took care of her children, and when they were grown, she left them in the care of nuns and devoted herself to pious life and merciful deeds. The only written history speaks about this period of her life. In her Revelations, St. Matilde mentions Judith as a pious and holy widow. Judith was under spiritual guidance of Dominican Hedendrick, I am so not German, who after the creation of the Comsey diocese was appointed bishop in the Teutonic Knights Order properties. Judith was linked with the order through the relative of her husband, Anno von Sangerhausen, who was great master of the order from 1256 to 1273. In 1256, Judith was invited to Comsey, which is now Chalsma, probably by the bishop, not by the great master, who more likely resided in the order's Mediterranean estates, not in Prussia. She sold her property, distributed the money to the poor, and settled down near Comsey, in a fisherman's hut on the lake in the forest, near Belgesen village. She led a hermit's life, devoting herself to prayer. She went to the Holy Mass every day and served lepers at a leper's institution, collecting alms for them. She was called Sister to the Poor. She died on May 12th of 1260. Her feast day is May 5th because Frederick Sembeck, Order of St. Joseph, her first biographer, mistakenly adopted the date of her birth. Our closing prayer comes from St. Angelus of Jerusalem. Christ, you patiently withstood beating and insults, forgiving your judges and oppressors. Protect us from anger and hatred. Let us keep a pure heart, so that we do not look down on others, and receive any admonitions with great gratitude because they help us avoid sinning. Amen. And this week's prayer intention is for my friend Lindsay, who just recently bought a small little house for her and her boyfriend, that nothing happened to it and that it blossomed into a lovely home and a lovely family. This week's fan of the week is Vanessa Robles. The answer was 12 cents, and this question hailed from way back 3 weeks ago. So there will be a new question this week. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week, barring any illness or something. Excellent. My computer's frozen.